started. I'm excited about this because Matt's got some fire content to hit on today. A couple different things. First off, y'all, if you have any questions, feel free to type it into, is it not the chat, but the, what is it? Q&A. There we go. Q&A. That's what I was trying to get at. Q&A, drop them in there for us. We'd love to get them answered. I'll read them for you, Matt, and I'll ask them for you. I'll kind of play moderator today. And let's just start here, Matt. Let's start with who you are. So I want to make sure people know who Matt is. So
yeah,
tell about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Matt McKenzie. I'm a coach with Hatch Coaching. I coach ISAs, I coach agents, building their businesses, whether it's structuring the business as a whole and the different departments and getting things to where they need to go, or just coaching ISAs on lead conversion, building their business, building their pipeline. It's really all principles that we're building these things around to help things grow. The reason why I'm passionate about it is because I'm in the trenches. I actually get the opportunity to lead an ISA team of 4, including myself. It is setting appointments for about 35 agents in the Denver market. Myself personally, I've had over 50,000 conversations with online leads over the last 6 years. So I don't think that, like, I mean, I don't like to pad my stats, but I have had a few reps at it. So I have learned at least. So but that's who I am, and I'm really just passionate about helping others grow their business and look and identify the little holes and the little inefficiencies and really getting it back on track to operating like a well-oiled machine. So that's who I am.
I love it. Matt is also an incredible human being. He is a hell of a drummer in the band Red Rocks. Is that what you guys do? Red Rocks Worship, right? I don't remember.
So when I'm not doing real estate, I play drums in a band, and got the opportunity to play Red Rocks Amphitheater last year. And yeah, I go out on tour. So it's really honestly a blessing to get to chase that dream down and do this. Pinch me. It's crazy. So
I love it, man. I love it. I love that you're living your dream life. So that's super cool. All right, Matt. So we talked about the numbers behind top ISA departments, and I'm actually going to throw a curveball at you here real quick, because we get to see behind the curtain on ISA departments that actually produce and some that don't produce. And I want to ask you, what's usually the differentiating factor between ISA departments that create bountiful opportunities for their team compared to those that don't? What would be your thoughts?
Yeah, I think honestly, what it comes down to, Robby, is we have to inspect what we expect. Too often we just throw out numbers out there like, hey, you want to be an ISA on the team? Okay, you got to be really good at handling objections, but we don't actually measure what success looks like. So we know in our business that if every ISA on the team is committed to setting 2 appointments per day, every agent on our team is going to get at least 1 appointment from an ISA every single week. And if it's a quality appointment, that means that roughly 60% of them should get to the closing table. That's being very conservative. So we know that if we use that as our North Star, that we're operating and being successful for our team that we're setting appointments for our agents. So we know that we're also making money, because frankly, anybody who's an ISA and you're not at least a little bit driven by a monetary reason, that like you got to be hungry for it. So in order, I firmly believe this role of an ISA can be a 6-figure job if it's worked the right way and is tracked the right way. So
that is generally the ISA departments that we connect with. It's the ISAs have potential to make at or around 6 figures if they're willing to put the work in. They don't get a salary of 6 figures, but they can earn commission that gets their income to around 6 figures, or maybe even a little bit more.
Yep.
Okay, good stuff there. I want to add one more piece to that. So I think one of the other big things that separates quality ISA departments from those that aren't really great at quality is frankly the quality of the appointments, because we're going to talk a lot of numbers today on how you can set appointments and so forth. There are a lot of ISA teams out there that set hundreds of appointments And to be very, very frank, we just simply have different definitions of appointments. So I would love for you to define what would you describe as an appointment in some way, shape, or form, Matt? And how does that differ from what you see other people doing?
Yeah, so let me just cast a vision for what other people, what we say is an appointment, and then let me cast a vision for what appointments that if you commit to setting quality appointments, not just quantity appointments, you will have more closings. So, let's define a quantity appointment, because that's what most people default to. So quantity is simply finding somebody who's willing to have a conversation with an agent about their home search. That is a quantity appointment in my mind. We boil it down to just finding someone, they want to go see a house. Like the easy layups are like the Zillow leads, right? The realtor.com leads, the Ojo leads, they just want to go see a house, home light stuff, like they just want someone to come give them a CMA. Like, we qualify those things as appointments. Friends, those aren't appointments. Those are, they're just not appointments. Let's call a spade a spade.
The term I would use is that's a handoff.
Yep. You took the lead and you figured out that they wanted to have a conversation with an agent, and then you just booked the appointment. Like, you are not an ISA, and drives me nuts when I run into this. An ISA is not a front receptionist at an office that schedules appointments for agents. Like, that is not what the role is at all. That is a giant misconception. And if the ISA role is used the right way, it can be the #1 profit driver in your real estate business today. So let's continue to talk quality versus quantity. So we define what quantity is. Hey, we found a hand raiser, found someone that said they wanted to talk to an agent, and we made a handoff. That is quantity. Quality, very simply put, at the end of the day, is somebody that we've had a conversation with where we have discovered their why and their means. That's it. Their why and their means. And then thirdly, I'll add a third thing in there, their expectations of an agent. It's very simply that. So their why. We have driven down to their motivation. What is driving them? So Robby says this all the time, and I firmly believe it. You can't influence people unless you know what's influencing them. So we need to find people's why. We need to drive down to their motivation, and people's motivation exists below the surface. So we probably have to drill down for it. If you are an ISA and you're on this call right now, do this right now. I promise. Download the Zillow mortgage calculator and walk people exactly through what they can afford in the market today. Because the last thing that you want to do is set an appointment for someone who's looking for a $500,000 house with expectations of a monthly payment that can only afford them a $300,000 house.
That's wanting to get champagne on a Bud Light budget.
Yeah, don't do that. Budget. Don't do it. So again, just setting good expectations, getting into their means. And the best question that you can ask in order to break that seal, so to speak, is, hey, Robby, help me understand, what things have you done to prepare yourself to buy a home in today's market? Simply. I love it. So their means. And then probably the most important question that you can set up to basically help your agents close the deal. Because we say close the deal, we mean win the relationship. That's really what we mean at the end of the day. Because we're not about transactions, we're about relationships. The transaction is a means to the relationship, not the other way around. So we need to ask this question, guys, as lead converters. And if you don't have an ISA, you are the lead converter, so you should be asking this question. Hey, Robby, what are your expectations of the agent that you want to work with? Or what does your ideal agent look like? If you can drill down, if you can get that clear as mud, now you're handing an agent, or you're giving yourself, hey, I know why this person's moving. I know their means to be able to do it. And I know their expectations of someone they want to work with. Guys, if you can't close a deal with those 3 data points in hand, I don't have much more that can help you. So, like, honestly, at the end of the day, if that's all we need to close the deal, really.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into a lot of numbers today, Matt. And I wanted to make sure that we don't confuse quantity with quality. And we're going to take the rest of today's webinar. It's going to be very quantitative, not qualitative. We have done many webinars on the qualitative side of how do you have great conversations. We will keep more of those coming, but we need to make sure that not all appointments are the same. Heck, what we are defining as an appointment is traditionally what Matt had said. We've identified somebody's needs, wants, and desires, why they want it, what they're going through, their fears, their emotions. We've identified when do they want to do it. So I like to call it the who, what, when, where, why. And then finally, what's their ideal agent look like? We've had those conversations before we've connected with them. And what that simply does is it creates much more buy-in. And it frankly filters out people at a much higher level. That way we're not sending our agents on squirrel chases. Because as Matt had said, I think the bare minimum conversion rate, closing rate actually, not even conversion rate, the bare minimum closing rate that you should see on ISA set appointments should be somewhere around 25 to 30%. That should be the floor. And it should be higher than that. Okay. The best ISAs I know hover around that 50+% rate, even into the 60s when you're really, really good. And what it really comes down to is there's two simple philosophies. One is don't ask any questions and just go show homes like crazy. Okay. That's a handoff method. And I'm not here to say that one's right or wrong. Obviously, we have a very clear idea of what we want. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. And everything we're going to talk about today is going to reflect that in terms of quantitative numbers to get there. But it's not just, hey, okay, cool. Your name is Matt. We'll show you the home tonight at 6 o'clock. Okay, cool, Matt. We're going to come out and give you a CMA tonight. It is, we are having an in-depth conversations where we know how to best serve people when we walk in those appointments. And what I've seen from my perspective is it is a heck of a lot more effective and you waste a lot less time. In other words, slowing down to speeding up. Yep. Somebody had asked a question, I think. Did you see it?
Oh, I got it. They asked transcribe the three key questions. So one around motivation, one around means, and one around their ideal agent. So
cool. I like it. And by means, you mean ability, correct? Like the ability to do something. Great. Just want to clarify that. All right, Matt, what are some of the biggest numbers behind top producing ISA departments? Tell me about it.
Let's just start it off with daily metrics, guys. What is the minimal acceptable daily standard for an ISA to be successful? Well, I'm terrible at math, so I'm going to break out a calculator. Robbie's really good at math, but that's why he's the numbers guy. So I'm all philosophy. But if an ISA commits to setting 2 quality appointments, meaning quality, not quantity, 2 quality appointments per day. Yep. If they're not doing that, they need to set 25. They need to have 25 conversations per day. If they're not doing that, they need to make at least at a bare minimum 250 contact attempts per day. And here's why, friends. If you are an ISA and you're setting 2 appointments per day minimum, congratulations, keep on doing what you're doing. Yep. If you're an ISA and you're having 25 conversations per day, but you're not setting 2 appointments, we have an aha. We need to coach around your conversations because your conversations aren't getting to your appointments, which means you could have an objection handling problem. You could have creating a safety net problem with just helping somebody feel comfortable in that conversation to keep going with you. You are not drilling down their motivation. You're not identifying what we call the gap, which if you want more information on that, please let us know because we have tons of coaching courses and materials around how to identify the gap in somebody's motivation. And so you get them to say yes to improving their situation or chasing whatever they want. Anyways, side point. You're having 25 conversations and you're not setting 2 appointments. It means you need coaching around your conversations. If you are making at least 250 contact attempts per day, but not having 25 conversations, we need to ask 2 questions. Who are you calling? And when you do get on the phone with somebody or in a text conversation, what does your response look like to the first thing that they say? So it's probably an objection. So again, all of those metrics are geared to say, hey, our goal is 2 appointments per day, 2 quality appointments per day. And if we're not hitting that, there's a reason. So there's coachability at every single point of those data points. So again, 2 quality appointments, 25 conversations, or 250 contact attempts per day. and you need to hold yourself accountable to this. Now let's say let's say today, if I'm just holding myself accountable, I don't set 2 appointments. We look at the aggregate whole as on a weekly basis. If you're an ISA and you're working 5 days a week, which you probably should be working 6 to 7 days a week. I hate to break it to you, this is a production role. Let's say if you're just working 5 days a week, you need to be setting 10 appointments in that week. So whatever, like you can break it down by month, you can break it down by year, you can break it down by week, day. We like to do days here because we have enough North Star every single day. So
I'll add a few more things. So for us, the standard, like you said, is 250 attempts, 25 contacts, or 2 quality appointments. And the key word is or. And what's really, really fascinating, Matt, just from my perspective, is it's really easy to celebrate when an ISA sets 4 or 5 appointments in a day. Like that's easy to celebrate. Very frankly, I'm actually more proud of an ISA when they make 650 dials, contact 80 people or 50 people, and set 0 appointments. I'm more proud of those days, because the days when you set appointments 4, 5, 6, the most I've ever seen, I think, was 11, whatever the number is. The only way you have those types of days is you do the lead measure days, which is you're making those calls, you're having those contacts. But I think you're 100% right. You have to be extremely focused on hitting those numbers every single business day of the year, period. You got to be hitting one of those 3 numbers. And I loved how you accentuated, if you're not getting the results, the lag measure, which is the appointments, well, then we got to really zoom in on your conversation. The other thing that I would just simply name is you might have to consider and view the lead sources that you're calling, and you might have to switch things up. A really good example is you might have to use a triple line dialer to increase your contact rate, essentially, to stop wasting time on dead air. So these are other things that you can be considering. Most high quality ISA departments use a triple line dialer of some sort to make sure that they don't waste dead time when people aren't answering the phones.
Yep. So hopefully that makes sense, y'all. And I just did some basic math. So let's assume that you take 2 weeks vacation a year, or maybe even more generous, 3 weeks vacation a year. It's 21
Do
days,
4.
so
you take a whole month off.
you take a whole month off. There we go.
Yep.
Like it. So you're going to work 335 days this year. If you commit to setting 2 quality appointments, you're going to set 670 appointments a year as an ISA. Let's assume that 30% close, just as a conservative baseline floor.
Do 25%. 25%. 25%.
Right. Okay. Well, now I got to redo my numbers. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I broke your calculator.
You did. So let's assume that we need to do the ideal set to hold rate. So you should at least have a 75% hold rate on all your appointments. So let's take 335 appointments that sorry, I got to do this again. 365.
I threw a wrench in your mojo there, huh?
2 is 670 appointments.
Yep.
Times a 75% hold rate is you're going to have 502 appointments that hold. Out of that 502 that hold, you want a 25% close rate, meaning that you're going to close 125 deals a year. Just to give you a frame of reference, if ISA is 5% when the deal closes. So price point of the home, we're using 500 for our market. I know maybe across markets, let's even move it down.
Hey, Matt, reverse and you pause for a second. Your internet cut out for about 15 seconds. So, yeah.
So you heard
that. Go back 15 seconds, give or take. So right when you got to the amount of 120 closings.
Cool. So let's say you're going to close 125 deals a year if you're committed to setting 2 quality appointments per day, assuming that 75% of those appointments hold, and then 25% of those held appointments close. That gets us to 125 appointments, or 125 closings in a year. Those 125 closings at an average price point of, let's just call it 300,000. I don't know who's on here and what national averages we're working with, but let's just call it 300,000.
Love it.
1,000 just doing some quick math here. An ISA should be making a minimum of 52 grand a year on their closings based off of that 300 number. Now, in markets where you have a higher price point, like in our market, our average price point is 500. So if you're in a maybe a little bit higher of a price point, we're gonna give you some numbers. Let's see here. You have 125 closings. You should be making close to 90 grand a year off of the appointments that you're closing for, assuming that you're using that 5% model. Now, some teams use a higher commission amount. I'm just telling you what we do. So, any way you slice it, the minimum acceptable standard, if we're holding true to it, 2 quality appointments per day, 335 working days a year, based off of taking a month off, you should be closing 125 deals a year if you're committed to it.
Yeah, I think we can, let's go down one more pathway, Matt. Let's get a little more conservative. Let's say you take a month off, so you take 4 weeks off. There's 52 weeks in a year, so now we're down to 48. So run these numbers for me. So 48 weeks in a year. And let's just say that you are only working the 5 days. You always work 6 to 7, like you said. So that's 2 appointments per day, right? So take 48 times 2 appointments per business day, which is 10 appointments per week. That's 480 appointments a year. So a little more conservative than what you had said, Matt, but nonetheless. So let's run these numbers.
That's 480 appointments a year.
480, and then 25% of them should close, period. Okay, so take it times 0.25.
120 deals.
Almost the exact same thing, right? So if you're just setting 2 per business day, including a month off and not setting anything on nights or weekends, which of course those numbers can subsidize your weekday numbers, you're getting to 120 closings if you consistently hit 250, 25 or 2.
Now,
go ahead. You're good.
I was going to say this is a great segue to our next thing here.
Yes, please.
But finish your thought.
You're good. Absolutely. I love it.
You can set as many quality appointments as you want, but if you're not doing this one thing, or let's call it 2 things, after the appointment, I promise you the deal won't close.
Is it hoping and praying that your agents do everything they're supposed to do?
Guys, our job as ISAs is to get the lead from lead to appointment set. That's our job, right? And sometimes that takes 12 months, 2 years, 1 conversation. You have to nurture people, all the things. Number 1, your job is to make the handoff as clean as possible to the agent. So there needs to be a calendar invite sent to the client from the agent. And if you're using a CRM like Sierra or Follow Up Boss or any other ones out there, you should have some sort of like calendar sync in with the CRM. So you should be able to do this straight through there, so you can track it through there. But the calendar invite needs to go to the client from the agent. You need to confirm the appointment if it's more than 24 hours out. And guess what? This is the number 1 thing that I see in agents' pipelines when we take a look at it on why the appointment didn't hold, even though it was a quality appointment set. There was no conversation between the agent and the client before the appointment. That simple. If Robby is an online lead that just spent 20 minutes talking to me on the phone about his motivation, his means, and what he wants out of an agent, that's great. But let's face it, guys, people have lives. They go back to their life, they forget about it. He's an online lead that doesn't know me, that spent 20 minutes talking on the phone. Why in the heck do you think he's going to show up to an appointment where there has been no rapport or trust or a conversation built between him and the agent he's meeting with? Guys, you need to hold your agents accountable to getting into a conversation with all of the appointments that you set. If there's no conversation, I guarantee you that appointment's not showing up. I promise you.
And what is the number 1 hack that you've utilized to transition that conversation from you to your agents, Matt?
Yep, just a simple 3-way group text to which the agent responds back, asks the lead or the client a question, or says, "Hey, I have a couple minutes now. I'm going to give you a quick call," and gets on the phone with them.
Either way, there's got to be some substantial or some contact between the agent and the lead. No matter how good a conversation, I think you hit on something, Matt. No matter how good a conversation they had with you, they're not meeting with you. They're meeting with this mythical creature named Jordan. And if there is no contact between them at all, there's no buy-in. And what happens is a little bit of conversation between the two, whether it's through text message conversation or through voice to voice, it creates this tethering effect. And it's almost like Velcro. And what's really kind of cool is as long as you get it to stick, it's a lot more likely you one to show up. They're a lot more likely to be less guarded when they meet with this random person they never met before. And therefore, they're a heck of a lot more likely to actually take action with that agent. Now, agents drop the ball, right? It happens. What we have to do as ISAs is we don't just set appointments. We got to make sure we hold people accountable to doing the right things after the appointment is set.
Yep.
Cool.
So yeah, that handoff's got to be clean. That's our second thing. Like the top ISA departments around the country, that handoff is as clean as possible. So these things hold true. The next thing, let's take a couple of steps back here, guys. How many leads do you need to generate a month per ISA in order to have the at-bats to have these 2 appointments, 25 conversations, or 250 contact attempts? Here is what we say, and Robby can chime into this, but you need to be generating at least 100 to 150 leads per ISA per month in order for that to happen. So it's really a numbers game. If we just assume that every ISA has 100 to 150 leads to work a month, whether it's expired for sale by owner, PPC, portal like Homelight, Zillow, whatever it is, they need to have 100 to 150 leads a month in order to make this happen. It's just a numbers game. And here are the 2 keys to generating 100 to 150 leads per month. And this is where an ISA no longer becomes an appointment setter, but they become the person that holds company dollars on generating opportunities accountable. Number 1, you need to hire a good PPC manager because it shouldn't be you. You've got way too many other responsibilities to be handling that crap. Hire a good PPC manager. If you don't know one and you're in this webinar today, please get a hold of Robby and I. We have people that we can introduce you to. So hire a PPC manager. They're going to be analyzing your campaigns. They're going to be analyzing your spend. They're going to be driving that opportunity to your CRM. You don't want that job description on you.
What should your cost per lead roughly be, Matt, on pay-per-click leads?
That was my next point, was analyze your CPLs at least twice a month. Average cost per lead. Now, if you're in a market like mine, Denver, things are a bit more expensive just because of the demand. And you got to understand that when we're in this type of market that we're in, guys, where there is a low supply of homes, but a high demand, that most things are going to go up. Price is going to go up. And that is true for leads. So understand that normally we see average CPLs cost per leads between $15 and $25, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets upwards of around 30. Like as soon as it gets anywhere north of 30, I'm worried about that. So,
and that's Denver, to make sure we're all on the same page. Your average price point is 500 plus.
Actually 600 now, but yeah.
Good God, y'all getting bougie as hell out in Denver. So y'all getting LA anyway. So what we've generally seen is mid-major market or mid markets like Fargo, our average price points, I think right around 350, 3 to 350. Our average PPC lead right around 15 and 20. So I think right around there.
Yep.
Spot on.
But the point is you need to have your eye on it. If you are, say, team leader, that should be one thing you're looking at at least twice a month. What are CPLs? That's something we track very heavily on our team. And I'm meeting with C manager twice a month to go over that. And if it ever goes above 30, I'm asking the question.
What's going on here?
Yep. Just hold it accountable. You are no longer an appointment setter. You are now holding company dollars accountable. So,
Can I add one more thing that along with cost per lead, I think you should also be analyzing cost per closing. That is one thing that so many people don't talk about. What do you have to add on that, Matt?
yeah, so if you don't know how to calculate cost per closing, Robby, teach them how to calculate cost per closing.
Take your total spend for your leads. So let's say that I bought in a year 1,500 PPC leads at $20 per lead. Okay. So it'd be 1,500 times 20, which according to my math is $30,000. Is that right? And let's say that that led to hypothetically 10 closings. My cost per closing then is $3,000. So 30,000 divided by 10. So you basically take the total spend divided by the number of closings from the lead source to analyze what is your total cost per closing. I don't know. Well, actually, what I should say is you should look at this for every lead source. It is shocking to me how many people their cost per closings on things like a Zillow can get to. So I would just be looking at those numbers to see your true profitability. But that's how I would break it down.
So, and here's another way to look at this, guys, because it's something we're tracking very, very heavily. So once a month, it's my responsibility to sit with Jordan, who's our CEO, and our director of agents, Dave Lewis, and I literally put in front of them a P&L report for our entire lead spend, and we're analyzing that every month. And we're tracking things like cost per closing, revenue, gross commission per closing. We are tracking how many leads we got. We're tracking how many closings. Like we're tracking our conversion rates. All of those things are tracked very, very heavily because we know where we need to put more dollars. So we can just redirect our budget based off of what things are going on. Hey, we know our gaps too. We know where we need to focus. So and here's why cost per closing is really important. Simply put, if your cost per closing, in Robby's example there, is $3,000, it means every time that you have a closing, it costs the company $3,000 to procure the revenue from that closing. So let's say that your revenue, which, by the way, just an easy way to calculate revenue is take the GCI and divide it by 2, assuming you have 50-50 splits with your agents. Yep. So take the GCI. Let's say the GCI is 15 grand on a closing divided by 2, meaning your revenue per closing there is $7,500. Let's just say that for easy math. If it costs you $3,000 to procure $7,500 of revenue, now you can make decisions on the basis of how much you spend on leads. So that was a whole lot of math. So if you have more questions and you want to see a good example of like a monthly report, please get a hold of me. I'm happy to share that with you.
I really hope people aren't offended with a whole lot of math because they're attending the numbers behind the ISA department's webinar. If you don't like math, you're in the wrong place, friends. This is the wrong webinar for you. You're probably sleeping right now or drinking something.
Well, that's what you need to do. Your North Star is generating 100 to 150 leads per ISA per month. Hire a good PPC manager. Make sure you're analyzing your cost per lead and analyzing your cost per closing.
Love it.
Yeah. Next thing. You need to track department metrics in a weekly scorecard that the entire ISA team reviews, and each ISA is responsible for reporting a metric in your department. So we have a weekly department meeting where we look at our scorecard, and our scorecard is simply how many did we set, how many out of the set did we meet with, how many were signed, how many were pending, how many outbound attempts, and how many new leads. It's that simple. We're tracking that every week. And we have history and data to show now back 3 years where, hey, June we know is a really, really busy month. Like just last week, our company set 66 appointments or met with 66 people. Sorry. That's a record for our company. And that's great, but we know that June is busy. So that's predictable. Now you can make predictable decisions and you know when you need to work like harder. You need to double down. So you need to have a weekly scorecard that every ISA in your department is bought into tracking. It gives them ownership. And so we have 4 ISAs in our department, and each one of them have a metric that it is their responsibility to report it on the scorecard every single week.
I like it. What else do they need to be tracking, Matt? We got about 10-ish minutes left. What are the other big key numbers that people need to be tracking in their ISA departments?
Yeah. How many times are you guys role playing a week? Hate to break it to you. Michael Jordan was the best basketball player that ever lived. Don't at me. It's not LeBron. It's Michael. I'm going to make that argument all day. Michael Jordan was committed to the foundational practices that made him successful, meaning dribbling, shooting, working out. He was committed to those things daily. The daily practice as an ISA that is to sharpen your skills is role playing. I think that you need to role play a minimum acceptable standard of 3 days a week, minimum. You should be doing it 5 days a week, but 3 days a week, minimum, meaning you are role playing multiple times in that role play session.
What are you doing when you role play, Matt?
Yeah, so in our role play model, there is a lead converter, there is the lead, and there is somebody who's observing. So the lead converter will we'll run a scenario. In fact, Patch has a great role play game. If you just want to take the whole guessing game out of it, it's called Connecting with People. I have it right here. It sits on my desk literally all the time. This is what we use. We simply take the card out. We guess like, okay, like this is the scenario. It's an expired lead. And then we have a personality card on there. And there's like a whole breakdown of that person's situation. And it's the ISA's or the lead converter's job to discover that. So if you want that, Robby knows how much it is. I don't even know how much it is, but
go to our website. I don't even remember.
If you get it, it's going to help take the guessing game out of role playing. It's going to help your role plays be more structured. So, but the point is you have a lead converter, a lead, and a silent observer. So the lead converter is having the conversation. They're going back and forth, and that once they're done, the first person to give feedback is the lead converter. That is very important for people, for ISAs to self-diagnose what went well and what could have been better. Self-discovery, just like when we're talking to a prospective client on the phone or text messages, it's more important for them to voice their pain point than it is for you. So you need to, when you're role playing, be the one self-diagnosing your own problems, because it's going to help you have skin in the game to fix them. The second person to give feedback is the lead. And that's someone who is like actually playing the role of the character that we're trying to get to an appointment.
Sure.
So that's going to help this lead converter see things from the other side of the table and that experience. And then the third person to give feedback is the silent observer, that person who was, or the gallery of observers. If you have a big team and you're here, like that's the opportunity to give feedback to the lead converter. If you're not doing it this way, guys, self-discovery is one of the most powerful things on planet Earth. When somebody can voice in their mind what they're doing wrong or what could have been better, it's way more powerful. So that's what we do in role play.
Just a few more things that I would add to Matt. You crushed it. The other final thing I would say is it's really important that the person that played the role of the lead and the person that's a silent observer, they're honest in giving their candid feedback. Your job in that role is not to play nice. It's to be very transparent. And sometimes what I see is people in role plays will just they're afraid to name the truth of like, man, that was tough. That person needs to hear, man, that was tough. That was awkward. Those things are so key. That feedback is so key. So it's got to be transparent.
Yep.
Okay, so role playing 3 days a week. So I'm going to recap everything we got so far. 250, 25 or 2. Right? Big thing. Should lead to about 100 plus closings per year, probably depending on your market. Next big thing is measure your cost per closing, as well as your cost per lead. Also, you've got to be looking at what we just discussed. You got to be role playing and practicing 3 days a week. You got to have some type of scoreboard that people are putting and tracking in some way, shape, or form. I think that can vary If you all want to learn a little bit more about accountability, I would recommend the book 4 Disciplines of Execution, or Traction, or Measure What Matters. They're all saying the same thing, which is you got to have objectives, key results, you got to have numbers that you're pursuing, and you got to have a cadence of accountability where you talk about it, as simple as it sounds. One thing I want to rush through from my perspective is when you're onboarding new ISAs, you should never give new ISAs the easy stuff. You should make it really difficult at first, and it will help you wean out, is this the right role for somebody? Because we all go through seasons like we did the last year where you have to pivot and do more hard work. And that hard work comes from working old leads. So we always have our ISAs. So for example, we have an ISA onboarding right now. She's literally going to start making calls tomorrow. And she will start with level 1 leads. Level 1 is the oldest and crappiest leads in our database. She'll graduate by setting either 10 appointments or creating 100 follow-ups to level 2. Level 2 is old, not as crappy. Did I say appointments? Leads is what I meant to say. So old, crappy leads. And then the second level is old, not crappy leads. The third level is new, lower quality leads. Fourth level is new, higher quality leads like Zillow's. And then fifth is everything. You get access to everything. The point is that they should start with difficult things and work through different levels to get the easier stuff. Everything needs to be earned. Nothing can be given. This is how you help avoid entitlement or frustration. Anything you want to add to that, Matt?
Guys, that's not easy to do.
You're not wrong.
Really transparent and really honest, because I'd never want to do one of these without being really transparent or really honest.
What is the problem when you say it's not easy to do? What is the problem that you run into personally, or what's that look like?
Well, my personal situation here on the team that I get the opportunity to lead is that I need to be in a position where I'm out of production.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be earned, and the only way to earn that is by helping other ISAs be successful. And it's really easy to cut corners to help other people be successful. But I promise you, if you reward a lack of effort, you will breed entitlement. Let me say that again. If you reward a lack of effort, you will breed entitlement. And entitlement is the most dangerous thing to your organization right now. In fact, entitlement is the most dangerous thing in our world right now, if we want to even take it there. We can't have entitled people, because entitled people think about themselves. They don't think about others. You are in a service-based business. If you're in real estate, you're in a service-based business. That is all about others. Entitlement doesn't work in this business.
Truth, my man. Truth. The other problem I see is we expedite giving the ISAs opportunities too early, because we're like, oh man, it's just sitting there, nothing's being done with it. In the short term, you're right, you can give those people those opportunities sooner. In the long term, it will kick you and bite you in the butt. It will kick you in the face. So Matt, what are the final things? What numbers do you want to add on today?
Just really quick. Some other things that are really top performing ISAs, not just say an ISA departments, rather, they push past the no at least 3 times before, I wouldn't say giving up, before getting off of the conversation or the phone. These are the not interested, the I'm just looking, the common objections we're hearing every day. Guys, you need to push past the no at least 3 times. Meaning, and how this is the simple way to think about handling an objection. Acknowledge, respond, pivot. It's the acronym ARP. If you just use that every day in your practice and in your ISA business, in your business as a real estate agent, if you don't have an ISA, you are the ISA. So ARP. Acknowledge, respond, and pivot. So someone says they're just curious about the market. Okay, so you're just kind of looking around. That makes sense. Help me understand what had you interested in real estate. Like being able to reframe objections like that and go 3 layers deep. One of our new ISAs, just to use a practical example, did this the other day and discovered that somebody was waiting 2 years to make a move because they thought they had to have 2 years of income. Well, they're a W-2 employee, they're not a 1099 employee, so they're actually good. So they were acting based on the basis of a lie, or a basis of a myth, rather, something that they thought was true that actually wasn't. So that's the type of thing that you're going to start to discover behind the not interested, the I'm just lookings, that might be making their whole decision based off of something that they're not informed about. But most importantly, it's just not holding out for no. Too often, here's what we see, especially for the people that use our hatch messaging and systems. When they get the objection not interested, they stick someone on a not interested plan. That is the wrong thing to do. Please don't do that. The plans won't work if you do that. Plans only work if you use it the right way, by the way. So hold out for that no 3 times. The other thing that I see top ISA departments and ISAs doing, they have a speed to lead that is sub 3 minutes, which in using automation these days, you can get to that in seconds, not minutes. Sub 3 minutes. More importantly, in this day and age with automation and text and how people normally want to communicate, we have seen calls start to come back for sure, but speed to response needs to be sub 2 minutes. So speed to lead sub 3 minutes, speed to response sub 2 minutes. Studies show out there that if you are waiting more than 3 minutes to contact new leads, your chances of converting them goes down by 300%. So don't be that person. Speed to lead. Speed to response.
I like it. You said earlier, I want to go back to it. You said ARP, acknowledge, what, and pivot.
Acknowledge, respond, and pivot.
Okay. I want to turn into LARP because I love live action role play. LARPers out there. Listen, acknowledge, respond, and pivot. You got to listen first, right? That's a new LARPing. I've never LARPed, by the way. I've never done that. So maybe we should get into that. We should try that out.
That's all you, bro.
Well, I'm a nerd, but I'm not that big a nerd. Any LARPers out there? I love you. I love you. Good for you. Anyone that doesn't know what LARPing is, you can Google it. Matt, anything else before we wrap up today?
No, guys, I think if you're really holding true to it, the 225 and 250 will get you where you want to be in your production as an ISA. Clean handoffs and that stick into that one thing of having the agent and the client get into the conversation before the appointment will create more appointments to hold because it'll be a better quality experience. Here's the other thing. I would make it a goal to pen 2 deals per week as a department minimum. Doing all the right things, it should lead to it should lead to those at least 2 deals a week. That's what we track on our scorecard. If it falls below that, we are looking at pipelines and we're looking at appointment set and we're looking at all that. So I think if you just make it simple, we said a lot of things here today, but if you can simplify the process, if you can simplify what you track, then you can scale your department really, really well. You know exactly what you need to track every day. You know exactly what the job entails every day. Less is more, guys, when it comes to tracking numbers, but track the things that matter. And if you're not sure how to track the things that matter, we are happy to have a conversation with you. I think there was a question about how to get a hold of one of us for that report. Yes, you can email me. You can get me on Marco Polo. You can DM me on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm happy to get back to you.
What is your email, Matt? Just so people know it.
Yep, I'll throw it in the chat for everybody.
Chat, do it on the Q&A. Chat only, I think, goes to me, unfortunately. So, and if you want to reach a hold of me, Robby T, RBBYT at hatchcoaching.com or on any of the socials as well. So,
yep, and you can hit me on any of the socials. Honestly, you're probably gonna get a faster response if you DM me. So my email inbox it does get to 0 at the end of the day, but
I like it. All right, y'all. I gotta get running. Good seeing you.
Later, y'all. Hope this was valuable for you. Go and do.
See y'all. Much love. Bye-bye.